So we're going to be going over the instructions to brew on the Colum mini dripper. We're going to be referencing the instructions on the instruction card because they're the most up-to-date, or the instructions that are online. The ones online are the most updated, so use that as a reference as the newest that we have for any of our products, whether it be Melodrip or Colum. Check those before you start brewing. So first we have the Glass Colum. This has markings on it that give you indications on when to pour. Next we have the filter ring. And the filter ring holds the mini filters, and also it's a handy way of taking the mini filters out and disposing the spent grounds. And we always recommend holding on this tab when handling either the mini filter or the mini dripper. This is the filter ridge that holds the glass column and the filter in place. And basically this is responsible for creating the seal once all the components are put together. Finally, this is the mini dripper. And this also has a tab here. Because it's stainless steel, it'll get hot. You know, we always recommend you using this tab for moving the dripper around. The first thing I recommend doing when brewing with the column is to understand how the glass column fits onto the filter ridge and shift it. Get familiar with how this feels when you slide it left and right. And this should only slide about a couple millimeters, but this is enough for the bottom surface of this glass column to flatten the filter paper that's on top of the ridge. You want to pinch with 2 fingers, apply a little pressure, and basically just slide left and right, and you should be sealed. Next is fitting the mini filter. So we recommend folding it slightly narrower. So we're trying to create a fold that runs along the bottom of the filter paper up to a point between the cleft marker and the filter seam. Just keep it slightly narrower than you typically would. The main reason why you always should pre-rinse the filter paper before putting the glass column on. If you put the glass column onto the dry filter paper and then rinse it, this filter paper is going to be hanging above the dripper ribs and have very minimal contact with the inside of the dripper. You end up getting a very uneven drain rate when you do that. The first thing is to place the included stir stick into the dripper just to keep the filter paper held down. Rinse with about 30 milliliters of water, and that's it. And you'll see that the bottom part of the dripper is in contact with the filter ribs. The next step is the most important part of preparing the dripper for dosing coffee. Creating the seal with the glass column. Put the glass column on so it fits on top of the filter ridge right here. Very little pressure. Press down a little and just shift. You don't have to push down, you don't have to grab it, but that's the last time you want to touch this glass column. So first we'll be dosing in about 17 grams of coffee, following this recipe. And then we'll take the stir stick and create a divot. And we'll be following the instruction card for 17. And feel free to round all these numbers off. You don't have to be extremely precise per pour. Just be as precise as possible on the final total amount that you're brewing with to get a consistent result. We have water just off a boil, and we'll start off with 3 times the coffee weight, 50 milliliters of water. I like to start off with a center pour for about half of it, and then kind of end with a quick circular. And use a stir stick to basically distribute the water in the bloom. In about 40-45 seconds, brew 4 times the coffee weight. So we're gonna go to 120 milliliters. I like to just do a very slow circular pour. And at this point, wait about 10 to 15 seconds as well. This is essentially to wait for the water level to kind of lower again. So you start off with a lower water level line. So the subsequent pour doesn't go too high. Next, we're going to pour to 190, which is also 4 times the coffee weight. And you'll see that it's at the 2 line. Once the water level drains down to a point between 1 and 2, then pour again. We're pouring to 280. And we're done. One thing to note is whether you do a 3-pour or 4-pour multi-pour, always begin your pours at the point between the 1 and 2 line. And this will ensure that after you pour, the drain rate will be of a medium flow around 1.5 grams a second. What we found is this is the ideal drain rate for this dripper, and your total brew time should be around 4 to 4.5 minutes if you're grinding fine, and then about 30 seconds to a minute quicker if you're grinding standard medium ground. And if you're the type who wants to swirl after you pour, we recommend that you only do about 3 swirls after the last pour. We found that swirling after the bloom or during the first or second pours can dramatically slow down the flow rate. So the column has this unified flow design where all the water that's poured into the brew chamber is focused through the coffee with very little dilution. And what this produces is a brew that has a very concentrated and dense flavor profile, with still having a lot of the flavor separation and clarity of the traditional conical pour-over dripper. Now we're finished brewing. I like to turn it maybe like a quarter turn and lift directly upwards. Wait about a couple minutes before handling the filter ring because it does get really hot. Lift the filter ring straight upwards and then basically plop it down to dispose it. And lift the mini dripper by the tab, carry it away, and your coffee's ready to drink.